It's rare that somebody can make me laugh out loud when I'm reading these. But this one did. Hi, I'm here. This is my channel. And just so you know, I do read all the comments. I don't always respond because honestly, some of them are just too weird to respond to. But I read every single one. And a couple months ago, one of you wrote, OP sounds like a badass. I hope she gets her own show. And I thought, why not? So I did it. Here's OP's story. It was late at night and I was walking home from the bar with my girlfriends. We had been out celebrating our friend who had just finished her final exams for medical school. My friend group has always been pretty tight-knit. We've been friends since college. And we usually like to look out for each other. You know, if somebody's drunk, then somebody else makes sure they get home okay. That sort of thing. Well, after we said our goodbyes outside of my apartment building, I started heading up to my floor. The first 2 buttons I pushed were for the first 2 apartments above me. And then the third one I pressed was for my apartment. But when I turned around, I realized that the man behind me had also pressed the button for that 3rd floor apartment. He was tall and handsome, but he looked a little bit lost. I didn't think anything of it until the elevator started going down. When the elevator doors opened on the ground floor, I stepped out and politely told the guy that he had pressed the wrong button. My dog heard me and came running. He was huge, a Great Dane mix. And when he saw me being attacked, he immediately lunged at the guy and knocked him down. My dog then began growling and barking furiously while he got off of me. I was shaking, but I quickly got myself together and ran to my apartment and locked the door. I called the police while I was shaking and crying, explaining what had happened. But when they arrived, they couldn't find any signs of forced entry or any witnesses, and there was no cameras outside of my building. So I must have been lying, and they ended up arresting me for filing a false police report. I knew that I wasn't lying, and I knew that what I had experienced was real, but everyone seemed to be against me, so I let it go. I was furious at my dog for coming into my apartment. If he hadn't come in, then maybe the police would have believed me. I was angry at myself for letting that guy in the elevator, and I was mad at my friends for not sticking around longer. Now, about 2 weeks later, I'm still having nightmares about the attack, and whenever I hear a knock at the door, I immediately jump and scream. I've considered moving, but where can you go when evil is everywhere? Okay, a few things. First of all, I'm glad that OP is okay. Like, that's the most important thing. And I'm glad that she has friends that care about her enough to come over and comfort her and try to talk her down off of moving. I also love that OP's friends were trying to help her out by writing positive reviews about her online. That's really nice. But the idea that OP should start her own show based on this story is fantastic. I mean, how awesome would that be? A murder mystery where OP is the protagonist and she solved murders with the help of her quirky dog companion. I don't know, just picture it. Now, the reason I laughed out loud is because this entire story is just OP blaming herself and assuming that it's her fault that she was attacked. Like, I get it. It's traumatic, and people do blame themselves when something horrible happens to them, even though they shouldn't. But I can't help but wonder if OP really thinks that she did something wrong here. Now I know that it's not the same thing. But when I read the story of a woman who left her back door unlocked and then blamed herself when she was attacked, I kind of felt the same way. In both cases, the women did nothing wrong. There is never a reason to blame yourself for being a victim of violence. But OP continues to beat herself up in this story. For example, she says, I was angry at my dog for coming into my apartment. If he hadn't come in, then maybe the police would have believed me. But if OP's dog hadn't come in, then she might have been in real danger. I mean, it's obvious that the guy that she encountered wasn't well and he needed help. But more importantly, OP is completely forgetting that when she screamed for help, the guy attacked her and then ran away. Like, that's not her fault. So her dog coming in and scaring the guy away is not her fault either. And yeah, the cops didn't believe her, and she got arrested for filing a false police report, which obviously sucks. But at the end of the day, she survived. And yes, I know that she's probably still dealing with the trauma and everything, but at least she got away. And that's not her fault. Okay, next. Okay, OP wants to move out, and one of her friends offered to let her stay at her place for a while. And so the three friends were sitting together and talking about it when OP's phone lit up, and it was her ex-boyfriend. Now, OP and her ex broke up 6 months earlier, but he had been harassing her ever since, and she had to get a restraining order against him. Her friends were comforting her and telling her that she didn't need to worry about her ex because he was locked up and couldn't bother her anymore. But then, her phone lit up again, and it was a notification from the police department letting her know that her ex had violated her restraining order, and now there was a warrant out for his arrest. Her friends were furious and wanted to go find him and hurt him, but OP wouldn't let them. She didn't want her ex to get hurt, but she didn't understand why he kept violating the restraining order when he knew that he would go to jail. Okay, I'm gonna take a guess and say that OP's ex is not the father of her child. But if he is, then I hope that OP realizes soon that he doesn't deserve to be in her child's life. Like, it's okay to not want your ex to get hurt, but she needs to understand that he's already shown her that he's willing to violate a restraining order to harass her. And if he's willing to do that, then he's definitely willing to do that with a child involved. Not only that, but OP needs to realize that her ex is showing all the signs of being an extremely toxic person. He's violating her restraining order. He's harassing her. He's probably not respecting her boundaries. And he has no respect for her whatsoever. People like that don't change OP. You have to let that sink in. And I'm not saying that she needs to go out and beat up her ex. Of course not. What I am saying is that OP needs to stop worrying about what happens to him and start worrying about protecting herself and her child. Oh, and this next comment made me laugh. Someone wrote, "Put a sock in it." But instead of getting mad at her ex, she spends all of her time worrying about him. Why is he doing this to her? Does he hate her? Is he angry? Is he going to go to jail? Will he get hurt? Will he kill himself? Like, lady, none of us really know what's going on inside someone else's head. But I'm willing to bet money that your ex isn't thinking about you at all. He's probably not even thinking about what he's doing. I'm guessing that OP's ex is more focused on his own problems than he is on OP. And those problems, whatever they are, landed him in jail. So unless he's planning to become an inmate in the future, he needs to stop violating the restraining order because he'll eventually get locked up and that won't be fun.